The Bloodline story sees the reunion of the Usos.
In an AEW, Adam Cole gets help from Roderick Strong in his battle with MJF.
It's time to roar around the ring. A lot happened with the Bloodline story this week, both Raw and SmackDown, so kind of just laying it out, starting on Raw. Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu show up. The whole Bloodline shows up on Raw, main event, and Jey Uso is robbed of the Intercontinental title. Right back on Braun Breaker. We fast forward to SmackDown, where the Motor City Machine Guns found themselves in a tag title match after earning that shot. Jimmy Uso and Roman Reigns get involved. Then Jey Uso gets involved, robbing them of the tag titles to the Motor City Machine Guns. And we end SmackDown. I know they recorded the next week's episode of SmackDown. Hey, don't spoil the show.
Don't tell nobody.
So we'll just talk about what we know happened on TV, and that is the Usos reuniting. No Roman Reigns yet. In the middle of the ring.
Kind of, sort of, but not really.
Kind of, sort of. Roman watching at the top of the ramp. And Jimmy and Jey, at least, back on the same page after robbing the Bloodline of the tag titles. How'd you feel about how all of this took place this week? Do you feel like it was too soon? I know we're looking at War Games. Survivor Series is at the end of November. So we got a little over a month until that. How'd you feel about, how and when this took place?
I don't think it's too soon. I mean, unless I don't see them like forcing anything for Crown Jewel. I would hope not.
No.
But it's not too soon in the sense of if you have to get Sami involved, which I think a lot of us are assuming that's the route they're going to go, you got to tell that story too.
Sure.
And you can't get there in a matter of like 1 week. It might take a couple weeks. So it's just... Then it's like getting that all together, and then if Paul Heyman's going to come back, if we're going to see a full-blown representation, which would be pretty cool, obviously minus Solo.
Yes.
Who knows if they're pacing it out, because if there's going to be involvement from The Rock, you don't know that either.
Right.
So I wouldn't say it's rushed. I think everything's happening right on cue.
Yeah, the only thing that, we'll talk about the title situation in a minute. That's one thing that I feel like I have a big question mark on. I do think that this Jey Uso thing is maybe a week or two rushed. And I know that sounds funny. It's only one episode, but you know how Triple H booking has been. Each week feels like a lot, right?
Yes.
And you just had last week, this dude wanted nothing to do with not only Roman, but Jimmy, right? Like, he wasn't even considering it. Now, I completely understand why he shows up on SmackDown to rob the Bloodline of the tag titles, because he got robbed of his title.
Yes.
But what I don't understand yet is how did that lead to him and Jimmy back on the same page, right? Like, there wasn't even a promo between the two, a conversation between the two. And I know him and Roman have their beef too that they got to figure out. But Jimmy and Jey had a whole match at WrestleMania. Had a whole feud, right? Jimmy screwed Jey out of the title against Roman. So the fact that, like, Jimmy wasn't even at Raw, right? Like, he had nothing to do with the IC title picture. They didn't interact while screwing the Bloodline of the tag titles, right? Like, Jimmy and Roman were gone backstage when Jey screwed the Bloodline. So there was just no interaction or promo for me to understand how getting robbed of the IC title explains why he's cool with Jimmy again. Outside of it's family, it's your brother, and brothers fight, which is always the go-to explanation in wrestling.
Maybe, well, see, here's the thing. The story could also serve this point of maybe the conversation that was had, or the missing piece to get you from A to B is Paul Heyman's involvement. Yeah. It was just done. It could be explained later on. It was off screen. It was a meeting. He hit up Jey, or he called up Jey, or whatever, right?
Sure.
They had a sit down, they talked, or maybe the family was involved. You can explain that story where Paul Heyman he's basically behind the scenes saying, hey, this is why you should get back with your family. That could be the reveal later that brings Paul Heyman back. That's how you can explain that away. For those of us that are sitting here saying, yeah, but the last impression we had with Jey Uso and Jimmy and Roman was Jey basically telling him, get out of my face.
Yes.
Paul Heyman being involved can explain that away.
Yeah, and that is a perfect way to do it if they go that route. Now, Roman did look confused. Right? He didn't seem mad about it, but confused at the top of the ramp.
Just like, oh, we're doing this?
Yeah, but keep in mind that Roman was trying, right? Like, Roman told Jey, we're proud of you, right? Like, Roman was trying to get on Jey's good side.
Yeah.
So it's not like he started off no yeet, right? And then, kind of gave in.
Which makes sense, though, because you got to think about the recent interactions with Jay and Roman and Jimmy prior to the like official breakup of the Bloodline, the first iteration of the Bloodline, that would be the reaction you would expect, because there was a lack of respect on Roman's behalf towards both of them.
Right. And so now the Jey Uso Roman tension seems a lot, even though they're brothers, seems a lot higher than the Jimmy Jay tension ever did. Right. Obviously they have multiple matches. Right. That's how this whole thing started. Right?
I mean, the SummerSlam match in Detroit here. I mean,
the
that
SummerSlam
for
match,
one,
but even before that, like way back when Roman's run started, him and Jay, when Jimmy was out hurt, had a whole Hell in a Cell match and everything. So that tension is much higher. How do you handle that now that the Usos are kind of back together? How do you handle the Jay Roman tension to get us to War Games?
Because you just explained it away as this is about family. It's bigger than personal rivalry. And if anything, this is what strengthens people to come together. It's very like, Hallmark cardish kind of thing, explanation. But in the story that they're telling, where they're trying to push the theme of, family above all else, that's how you get there.
Yeah, I think you got to make it as real as possible, though. I don't want too Hallmark, those Hallmark Christmas movies are the most unrealistic shit in the world, right? Like,
it's good cheese, though, man.
It is. It's fantastic cheese. But, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, realistically speaking, families fight, but families stick together. But when they do stick together, it's not like we just go back to being a happy family.
No, but I think they're telling that story here, where it's like there are going to be flaws, there are going to be imperfections, there are blemishes, there is a past of, hey, I'm helping you because we're family. Yeah. But I might have low key forgiven you, but I haven't forgotten.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's where that tension needs to stay there, but it needs to be on the same side, right? Like they can be back together. They can be back to being the OG bloodline, but that tension cannot go away.
It means more.
Right.
If it's there, it means more, because any little interaction where somebody kind of like, okay, I'm going to stand up for you and have your back now, it means more, as opposed to like, I'm having your back because we're all best friends again. It's like, you know.
And as much as I am excited about the OG Bloodline back together, the Usos back together, especially with Motor City Machine Guns in, like the tag team matches.
Your boy Sami Zayn.
But we'll get, hopefully he doesn't bring the flannel to the Bloodline.
But bring red flannel.
It could be, the Usi flannel, but
it's all oosed up.
Yeah, but I worry, and I say this, very excited about this Bloodline story. Had chills watching Jimmy and Jay hug in the ring. Excited about Sami to get back involved. But Jey Uso's popularity is on cloud 9 right now.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's getting LA Knight pops from when LA Knight first got hot.
Yeah. He's getting bigger pops than LA Knight's currently getting.
Right.
Yeah.
So this needs to be handled with care. Because as much as we're excited about seeing the Usos back together and the Bloodline back together, how far away do we stray from Jay's singles run as the Yeet, the guy that just was an IC champion, all of that, where it's like, I don't want him to get too lost in this shuffle and just totally take him away from the singles run that was red hot.
You got to find something to do with Jimmy.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying the Usos should never come together to be a tag team at some point, but if you're Jay's already established as a single star.
Yes.
A brief former Intercontinental Champion.
Yes.
Which we can get to that. But he's still established as a single star, and the fans have accepted it. They believe it. And he has a catchphrase, he has merch and everything.
Yeah.
It's not incumbent on him to be the one to be like, hey, I'm going to make this thing work. He's making it work. He's made it work. Roman obviously is leaps and bounds made his stuff work. It's Jimmy who either has to play, running mate to Roman or drag his brother back into a tag team. He has to find his own niche somewhere in between.
So what do you do with Jay post War Games? Do you have, toward WrestleMania, do you have a Usos back together tag team division run of any sort? Or post War Games, do you have Jay say, I got business on my own. We took care of business at War Games. Love you guys, but I'm on Raw.
That's the route I would go.
Yeah.
That Jey Uso is like, this is a thing. It's a cameo appearance for him.
Yes.
I'm coming back to help you guys out. You know what I mean? But after this, I'm getting back what I lost because I was unfairly taken. I was, whatever. I got screwed out of it. His trajectory should be, I'm doing this for family, but I'm going to go back to do what I do individually. Yeah,
I think Jey Uso has earned the right to be treated as the New Day was when all of them were in their singles run, right? We don't need to break up the New Day. They can still team up when needed, even go for the tag titles when needed, but Kofi's going for the world title. Big E's going for the IC title. Big E's going for the, whatever it may be. I treat it the same way here where the Usos, there's no official breakup. I don't think Jay needs to say goodbye.
Right.
I think it's just one of those things where it's like, I mean, it's easier because they're on separate shows, so you can do this, at least right now. Jay, we're still cool. I'll help you out when I need to. We can team up whenever it makes sense. Go for the tag titles every now and then, whatever. But more times than not, I'm going to go be who I've built myself to be.
It's tricky with tag teams, especially long tenured tag teams that have been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work when you split them up. I mean, you can think of the Dudleys for one.
Oh,
it worked for Bubba Ray, for Bully Ray to an extent. And then when he left the company, it worked even more so for him. Devon, it didn't work for. He just served as a vessel to bring Batista into the company.
Yes.
But and then so there's like the Hardy Boys, it worked.
Yeah.
And initially people were like, "Oh, how's that going to work? It's not going to work." But well, they found a way. Because they're both individually were two very different people.
They did, and I feel like Matt Hardy, not to stray too far away, but I feel like Matt Hardy, is going to sound very messed up, but Matt Hardy kind of benefited from Jeff Hardy's troubles. Because Jeff Hardy was 10,000 times more popular as a single star.
Yes.
I don't think anyone was begging Matt Hardy to be any of the champions that he ended up being.
Right.
But when Jeff Hardy was in and out of wrestling, people still loved the Hardy Boys, and that really just left one Hardy, and that was Matt, to really keep those Hardy Boy fans engaged. Yeah. Because Jeff was kind of in and out.
He kept that fire burning, so that anytime and every time that Jeff came back, the popularity never waned at all.
Right. So Sami Zayn, how do we get him back involved? How soon? Like, how does this wiggle back in?
I don't know, man. There's always, because with Sami, it always seems to be some sort of like existential crisis going on with his character, where it's like, I have to do this to prove, and then he loses. Or he wins a match that really has no bearing on anything.
I hate to say this, but Sami Zayn's character feels like that friend that just brings the mood down, and you're like, I don't want to invite him because he's always in a mood.
Just gonna talk about his problems.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And no offense to those, but like we have that friend.
Support your friends. Be there for your people, by all means.
But at the same time, like Sami Zayn always seems, even when he was champion, just like kind of mopey, kind of just like. He just feels like that friend that's always in the mood.
It's hard to find a place for Sami Zayn. It's hard to find a place for a lot of guys that we can watch and say they're really great performers. They're great in ring, or they have these great matches you can call back to, right? That's awesome. And it's like, that's cool. You put on a 5-star match every time I see you. But when it's something that's character and story driven, if I don't care about those two things, it's really hard for me to just applaud you being really good in the ring. Yeah,
for sure. And I think with I don't know if I agreed to this beforehand, but now seeing that Jay's already in, I feel like Sammy's going to need some convincing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that shouldn't be as simple as Jay's was, even though Jay shouldn't have been simple at all. Jay was going to be the one that's going to convince him to come do it.
I still think Roman has to be the one. I think here's the thing.
Jay's got to be the message man between the two.
Yeah, but I think Roman, if you're telling that story, it's going to mean more because look, Jay and Sami have been on Raw on the same roster for a minute, and they've kind of like, squashed whatever there was that was beef for the most part. Everything left with Sami and Roman never got taken care of. Right. Roman has to be the one to come to him and basically say, you don't want to make Roman look like he's groveling and begging, but to pretty much just say it like, we need you, I need you. Yes. That's the key of Roman's character showing that moment, that split moment of humility, saying to Sami, I need you to help me. I think that's your story. That's what makes all the difference. Yeah, and those moments are going to be great. I cannot wait for those promos. You just go back to how great the promos were with Sami and those segments that they had with the Bloodline originally. Well, think of Roman, because what's Roman's character right now? He's not in control like he used to be. No. He's just getting his ass kicked. He's floundering. He doesn't know what's happening. He's admitting that he needs help. Yeah, he's calling himself the tribal chief. Yeah, or the OTC, but he's got nothing. He's controlling nothing. Well, he's the tribal chief. It's the same thing. Obviously, the tribal chief originally, he needed all those guys. How many times? I mean, Solo helped him to keep the title. How many times? Yeah. Now it's him admitting it. Yeah. I need you guys. Yeah. This is what we make us, right? I don't make us. We make us. And that's your turnaround story. That's your babyface moment for Roman, even though he already is. So title changes within this. Braun Breaker lost the IC title, or got back the IC title right away. 2 weeks, basically 3 weeks after taking it from Jay.
and then the Motor City Machine Guns take the tag titles from Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. Are you good with these title changes to get us here, or does one bother you more than the other, or how do you feel about them?
Honestly, neither of them do, because I don't think that Braun Breaker should have ever lost that title.
Sure.
As much as a fan as I am of Jey Uso, and I think he looks great with the title, it just seemed very like, hey, we got to do this. It's a big main event. We're Southern California. It's a big event. Okay, cool. But what do you I feel like you just spent that time building up Braun Breaker, and now you're just like, hey, here's the title off you.
Sure.
Oh, by the way, we're gonna do the story. So you know what? We'll give it back. Okay. Yeah. Well, you righted a wrong in a way. You had an exciting moment for the fans, but it really shouldn't have happened, because I think Braun Breaker's a guy that you can push with that title for a while. As far as the Motor City Machine Guns are concerned, I love it. I love their energy. I think they, just by showing up, their entrance, the way they interact with the crowd, I think they've breathed new life into this tag division. With the Bloodline, those titles weren't really going to go anywhere.
Sure.
They were just kind of there. And I think this team, their match with DIY was dope. I think that this team is what the division needs on SmackDown.
Right.
They're an experienced team. They're a veteran team. They've been at this for a while. But I think that they have that kind of babyface tag team, almost kind of Hardy Boys-ish.
Yes.
Like the fans can get behind them. It's like, we love this team. This is our team.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah, I think I would not have hated the title staying in this picture, especially because the world title's not in this picture, because as of now, Cody Rhodes hasn't been involved in the Bloodline story for War Games. So I wouldn't have hated keeping the titles in there just to, add a little bit of prestige to all of them. The Motor City Machine Guns, I love it. I love, Corey Graves says it best, right? It's your favorite tag team's favorite tag team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spot on, right? Guys have never been in WWE, but everyone in wrestling knows who these guys are. That's how popular they are, right?
Yeah.
So this is similar to AJ Styles coming over to WWE.
Yeah, for new fans, for newer fans, they've been at this for a minute.
Yes.
If you go back to the early 2000s and probably before, because for me it was early 2000s when I first started hearing about them. They've been, and Solo made that comment, if you guys want to make an impact, which was like, yeah, dude, because they were some of the TNA originators.
Yes. This is similar to AJ Styles coming over, where AJ was never in WWE, but was insanely popular. Mm-hmm. People knew exactly who he was. He was a big name everywhere he went. In the tag team world, that's the Motor City Machine Guns. And I love that they just put the tag titles on them. Yeah. I'm with it, because they're not young, right? So let's not act like we got a couple years to build them. Let's get them going. Yep. People know exactly who they are. The Hardy Boys are a great example. They have that popularity that the Hardy Boys had. They have that style to them, that look to them. They can talk out. I love it for the Motor City Machine Guns. The Jey Uso Braun Breaker thing, yeah, I'm with you. It bothers me, but at this point, I would not have taken the title off of Jey, because I'm sorry, I'm at a point where, as much as we talked about long title runs not being great, short title runs, pointless, right? Unless it's like a cash in the same night. If you're going to give Jey Uso a whole moment 3 weeks ago, only to take the title off of him 3 weeks later, it just feels like don't even do it to begin with. And for the sake of the story, you could have had the Bloodline rob Jey out of his IC title opportunity to begin with, right? Braun Breaker deserved that title to begin with. He deserved a long run with it. We said it when he lost it. So you could have just had the Bloodline get involved and Jey going for that title multiple times if you needed to get us where you needed to. You didn't need to play, back and forth with the IC title, especially a title like that, for this story.
If nothing else, though, it did give us that little cool brief moment of that stare down between Braun Breaker and Jacob Fatu.
Love that.
And the fan, you see the fan, when as soon as they went face to face, like, oh shit! I did that. I was like, holy shit! I want to see this now.
Yeah, and it's gonna be interesting, because I thought Braun Breaker Gunther for WrestleMania, but if Gunther hangs out of that world title, how long does Breaker hang on to the IC title? What does that mean for Royal Rumble? What does that mean for that WrestleMania picture? All right, let's run the gauntlet. I have everything else that took place in wrestling, WWE and AEW, staying in WWE, I should say. Randy Orton getting a match with Kevin Owens at Crown Jewel. But how do you feel about Triple H on screen to get us there?
I mean, it was fine. It's always good to see Triple H. I just, I don't feel like it served anything extra other than having him out there, because to me, it was just more of like, I don't know. It didn't add anything. It was just like, hey, let's bring Triple H into this just to kind of give it an extra little kick. You didn't really need him, but it was cool to see it, at least for me.
Yeah, I think with Triple H does something, not to say this name, but Vince McMahon, the late years of Vince McMahon, when he was barely on TV, when he showed up on TV, you knew it was serious, right? Either a big announcement or the storyline is serious, whatever it may be. Triple H has that from the beginning. He doesn't show up on TV a lot. He's not that on-screen boss. So when he shows up, you instantly care a little bit more.
Yeah.
And he has a history with Randy Orton, so it makes sense. But I love this for Kevin Owens. This makes the Kevin Owens story feel so much more dangerous and serious that, like, yo, Triple H is coming on TV to push how dangerous Kevin Owens is instantly. Feels like that much more serious for Kevin Owens, especially for someone we didn't know what direction they were going to go in. So I love it for Kevin Owens. And it makes sense because the history with Randy Orton's there.
Well, that part, yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
that one makes sense. He's got some history with KO as well. I was for it. I'm instantly locked in when Triple H shows up. In AEW, Roderick Strong says he wants to help Adam Cole get back at MJF. MJF then says, okay, first one of you to win 3 matches gets me at Full Gear. So which one of those two should get the Full Gear match, and how do you feel about this whole
Adam! This is just all too reminiscent of things I want to forget with the involvement of all these people.
Yes.
The question being, who should get the match? Or who should...
Yeah.
Can we just finish up the Adam Cole thing? Can we just go that direction? And
Yeah.
he gets it, and then we just let this thing go behind us, and they all go their separate ways? Like, let's just go with that.
Yeah, I'm doing my best to make sense of what I have. Like, what have you done for me lately in terms of storytelling? Because Adam Cole,
Which is essentially what everything wrestling. What have you done for me lately?
yes, and well, with AEW, it's okay. What's the story this week? Okay, cool. I'll react to that.
It'll change by the time you get to Rampage.
A week ago, he definitely said, "Roddy, I need to do this by myself."
Yeah.
But hey, here we are. It does make sense long term, you know, because the Undisputed Kingdom was involved. But again, Adam Cole said he needed to do it by himself. I would give this match to Roderick Strong first, just to make us wait a little longer for Adam Cole.
Okay.
Right? I think MJF maybe helps, you know, whoever Adam Cole ends up facing win a couple times. And then you do MJF and Roddy for Full Gear, and you hold off Adam Cole for World's End at the end of the year.
Wardlow.
Where
and
the hell's
Wardlow's
Wardlow,
going to go away right after that and do nothing.
So for the sake of what we have recently, I would go Roderick Strong.
Okay.
For Full Gear, at least. In WWE, Crown Jewel got some matches added to the card. LA Knight, triple threat match for the U.S. title with Carmelo Hayes and Andrade. We mentioned Orton and KO, Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed.
Yeah.
And then a fatal 4-way for the women's tag titles. Are you surprised that Triple H went with a 6-match card for this show?
No, not really. I mean, I think especially for this particular show and what they're being paid to host the show there.
Sure.
You're going to throw in all the stops, and that's cool. I mean, it's fine. It don't have to be always 5-match shows.
Right.
You know, again, in this new era of Triple H, the Paul Levesque era, it's just because we did it this way doesn't mean we always have to do it this way.
For sure. And I think if it makes sense, if we have enough stories around it, which we do, all of them.
There are, yeah.
Yeah, like there's no forced matches on here. There's not really any feud that's like, why is that not being featured on the show? It's a case-by-case thing. People want to make so much of this 5-match card and who they got left off. It's like, yeah, people are going to get left off every card.
Yeah, plus showcase the women's tag division. Hey, it does exist.
Yes. So I'm all for that, and people try to make storylines out of who's on the card and who's not with each PLE, but it's like, okay, whoever's left off one card, I guarantee you if you go to the previous PLE, they were on that card.
Yeah, and probably the one before that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's not that deep. Like you said, Triple H, it's a case-by-case thing, which I'm all for it. MVP offered Ricochet to join the Hurt Syndicate. Should Ricochet consider this?
Yeah, man, because you're about to start appearing on Rampage.
He's close.
You better jump in there while you can so you can stay on Dynamite.
Yeah.
I would. Because honestly, for me, I don't think Ricochet has a lot of longevity on his own. They're outside of like doing, you know, flippity floppities in the ring.
Yeah.
Which is cool. It's great.
Yes.
But that's just kind of what you do, and then I don't care about anything else happening with you. So get involved with a program, with a group that obviously is being treated, at least right now, like a big deal, and it seems to be like there's more on the way.
Sure.
Jump in.
Yeah, for sure. I think Ricochet needs somebody to kind of hype up who he is because he doesn't do it well himself.
No.
And we've never seen a heel side of Ricochet. And on social media, I will say, the second he joined AEW, he instantly became like responds to all the haters kind of person. And I'm just like, you were never like this in WWE. So might as well just go heel so this can make sense.
Go with it.
You know what I mean?
He has a boss who's antagonistic.
Sure. And I feel like that just rubs off on everyone that gets hired in AEW.
Because look at, I mean, we want to get all into all that. I think you're allowed more kind of in AEW to be a little more confrontational or just whatever, promote the brand that way.
And that's what Ricochet has been on social media, and MVP hyping up who Ricochet is so Ricochet doesn't have to grab the mic himself and do it.
That's exactly what he needs. Yep.
Candice LeRae has been kind of implemented into this storyline with Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton, helping out Nia Jax, kind of prolonging the story. Do you like this for Candice?
I do. I really do. I think that it also serves to the whole like Tiffany versus Nia thing that we're eventually going to get to.
Yes.
Run with that. It's also, and it gives, and shout out to Indy Hartwell getting more TV time just being there by association. I think it works out for everybody involved.
I'm not going to be mad at those two, Candice LeRae, anyone getting more TV time and involved like that. And yeah, it adds to this Nia Tiffany story, and it slowly makes Tiffany look more and more like the babyface. So when that turn happens, it doesn't feel so random.
Yeah, you felt, just this past SmackDown, you saw that, like you got that vibe right away. Like, okay, they're turning on her.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Kyle Fletcher, an intense promo to call out Will Ospreay to the point shaving his own head because he doesn't want to look like middle. Will Ospreay. Right down the
middle.
Down the middle. Great style there. How'd you feel about this promo?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. I question if he's going to just do this as like a mini feud and then fall back into being in a tag team.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming they're going to continue that.
Sure.
I don't know, but I like it. I think that definitely there's a story there. There's a worthwhile story to be told there, feud wise. The shaving his head part was just funny to me, but I like the expression of that. And of course, it's probably going to be another, what, are we on like a dozen match of the year candidates now for Ospreay? Because these two are going to blow the roof off of it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, Kyle Fletcher is that talented, so I love that he's getting that type of push. Love the promo. Very intense. Like, give me a story as to why
dragging his family into it and personal stuff.
And it makes sense, right? Because the history is there, right? Like, there's so many matches and feuds in AEW that it's like, we once had a match 16 years ago, and that's our story. It's like...
We had that match in Japan that nobody saw except for the people in Japan.
Right, and it's like, okay, cool, whatever, forcing a story. But it's like, we know the story with these two. Yeah. We know they were in a group together. We know how close they were. We saw it on AEW TV itself. Great promo by Kyle Fletcher. Not going to go as far as to say he needs to beat Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay is that guy, but it's like even just being in that level with Will Ospreay is going to help Kyle Fletcher's singles run immensely. In WWE, Samantha Irvin announcing she has parted ways with WWE, but replacing her full-time on Monday Night Raw as the ring announcer, Lilian Garcia.
I love seeing Lilian back. It sucks to lose Samantha Irvin though, because even though I know that she got a little bit of like flack for like, oh, that's the girl, that's the thing that she does on social media, her announcing, and people would give her shit. She was great at it.
Great.
She's awesome. She brought a whole different kind of feel to every announcing of the match. I mean, you saw the wrestlers reacting to her like they're just like, hey, great job, you know? But of course, Lilian Garcia, it's just it's familiarity, takes you back to the 2000s, like, oh, Lilian, whatever, it's good to see her. I'm glad she's back in that role. But yeah, it sucks. It sucks to lose Samantha Irvin.
I was insanely sad. It was Monday afternoon that Samantha Irvin announced this right before Raw, and because like crazy talented. Good luck to her. Most likely going after a musical career. I know people are like, oh, AEW, Ricochet. She's
you don't gotta paint her in a corner like that. She can,
come on,
downgrade.
I'm just saying.
Downgrading.
Okay, well, two things. First off, they love Justin Roberts there.
Downgrade. Well, yeah, he's great too.
So it's like, are they? I highly doubt they're going to push him aside. We can't just gloss over this
downgrade.
Yeah, because you're going to go from ring announcing 15 to 20,000 people a week on Raw to a good 3,000 to 4,000 each week on Dynamite, if you get on Dynamite, because again, they love Justin Roberts there. So it's like, are they going to push him aside for her? There's no way that's going to happen.
I have my gripes with AEW, but you AEW fans out there.
Okay. Lilian Garcia, I will say, and she sounds exactly like she did in 2005. Like, she sounds exactly as she did in the 2000s.
No, she's great. I'm not disparaging her at all.
Yeah.
That is an era that, like, I think a lot of, I know because I'm older than you, but I think we all kind of came from that era 100%. Too, where we all recognize, like, we love Lilian Garcia.
It feels like I'm watching old school Raw all over again. She sounds the exact same. Hasn't aged one bit.
No, she sounds great. She's doing great.
I love that. All right, but lastly, before we get out of here, quick game of Do You Care with AEW?
I don't.
All right, fantastic. We're off to a great start. Chris Jericho.
I really don't.
You really don't. All
Show's over.
Say.
We're done. Okay, anyway.
Game
Raw
over.
Around the Ring's available.
Chris Jericho won the ROH World Title from Mark Briscoe. Do you care?
Oh, God. I would have cared if it was Mark Briscoe versus anybody else.
Sure.
Anybody.
Sure.
Anyone.
Anybody.
Action Andretti. Let's go. I don't care.
He's too busy with Mox.
They were too busy in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Looking like a bunch of goofy asses, waiting the entire show just...
Yep.
Come on, dude. What the hell was
And then
that?
somehow-
the
somehow
same
Mox
crew
and them-
of people
Yep.
that just got their ass kicked.
Yep. And somehow Mox and them still got in the arena without them
And by
knowing.
the way, this whole invasion that they're doing with this crew of,
Yeah.
of Blackpool Combat, Orange Cassidy's your Stone Cold Steve Austin, I guess.
Yep.
Tony Khan's going to show up. I need the old Orange Cassidy back.
Shout out to Orange. Shout out to Orange Cassidy, man. I will say,
Anyway, no, I don't care.
I care about the Chris Jericho thing in the worst way. I don't know what their I don't know what their obsession is with Chris Jericho. Let's keep putting a title on him. Let's keep putting him involved.
He's
in all
not the
these
Ocho
stories.
anymore. He's the Nueva now.
Yeah, people don't care. People don't want to see this. People don't care. It's horrible. Lastly, with Do You Care? Private Party challenges the Young Bucks for the tag titles. They say they will split up if they lose.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go out in the parking lot. See who else shows up. I don't care. I don't care.
I'm just going to say, if in wrestling we put you in this segment, do you care?
No.
More times than not,
We don't care.
we don't care.
You
And
know, because you know who's not in this segment? Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay.
Shout out to Kyle Fletcher.
Because I care.
Because I care.
Because I gives a shit.
But we're not going to main event them on Dynamite. Not one bit.
No.
Roar Around the Ring is available every week. Find us on YouTube at Roar Around the Ring. He's at Do the Real Daryl Teeler. I'm Justin Valentine. We'll talk to you guys very soon.